You're listening to Mike and Scott read a poem. This is episode 27, Sonnet 45 by William Shakespeare. Mike, what did you want to call this week?
This week is Culture Week.
Yeah, you declared that when we were recording the show just now. And what did we end up talking about?
Opera, musicals, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, X-Men.
You're listening to Mike and Scott read a poem. Hans Christian Andersen was not at the premiere of one of his ballets, at least according to the movie that I saw with Danny Kaye when I was a kid. I don't know if it's true or not, or if it's just in the movie, and I don't know what ballet it is, but we could look that up if you want. I'm comparing that to your situation of entering a chili cook-off at your work, but not actually being there the day of the chili. You're going to have to give it to... Are you going to give it to somebody else, or are you going to drop it off in the morning?
I'm going to drop it off a day in advance, because that's kind of how chili marinates and gets good in a day, you know.
Okay, but not necessarily is it dropped off in the place where it's going to be consumed for a day. But you're dropping it off on, what, Tuesday?
I'm dropping it off Wednesday morning.
Okay. Leaving
it in the fridge at work, and then Thursday morning is when it'll be consumed. But I won't get to eat any of the other chili in the cook-off, and I was really excited about it. Chili's my favorite food.
So you are the modern-day Hans Christian Andersen, and your chili is your, I don't know, Little Mermaid.
My Swan Lake.
Swan Lake. I don't even know if that's Hans Christian Andersen, Swan Lake. I don't know. So we're going to learn about ballet tonight.
All right. Ballet and sonnets. We're the men's men.
It's a very cultured podcast this week. Our trivia questions, which are usually about Darkwing Duck or something like that, tonight, they're about Hans Christian Andersen.
It's Culture Week. You know how the Discovery Channel has Shark Week? Well, we're doing Culture Week.
Okay.
And sprinkled in with Darkwing Duck.
All right. Culture Week here on Mike and Scott Read a Poem. I mean, every week we read a poem by Shakespeare. That's pretty cultured.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel very cultured the way we're doing it.
Speaking of culture, have you ever watched an opera?
In college, I once saw an opera, but it was in English.
Ooh, that seems like it'd be weird.
Yeah, it seems like the point of it is that you're not supposed to understand.
Yeah, and I don't know, like...
That's only the point for Americans, because obviously in other countries they speak more languages.
But isn't it like an archaic form of whatever they're singing in? Kind of like, you know how there's Old English and...
No, I think if you're Italian, it's a lot easier to follow the story if you're watching an opera that's in Italian. Even if the words aren't completely... You know, to tell you the truth, it's sometimes hard to watch something like Phantom of the Opera, Les Miserables, as a play for the first time if you don't know the story.
Those are plays, not operas, right?
Right. But
Phantom of the Opera is not an opera.
It's not an opera. Huh. It's about a guy who is the phantom of an opera. So don't get confused.
You should write a story about a guy playing in the play The Phantom of the Opera.
And I'll call it The Actor of the Phantom of the Opera. But being surprised that The Phantom of the Opera is not an opera, I know that they're singing in it, but it's almost like if it was called The Phantom of the Baseball Game, and you went, wait, it's not a baseball game? It's a play? Of course you're not going to think it's a baseball game. You're going to know that he's the Phantom of the play, but because he's the Phantom of an opera...
That's true. But you can't... The line between play and baseball is much, much more defined than the line between play and
that line
opera.
Is put down in white chalk. You could very easily see it.
And it's 63.5 feet. Is that how long it is? To first base?
No, it's 90 feet.
Oh, it's such an easy number. Why did they get all crazy on it?
Yeah,
90.
Well,
right,
because of how far the pitcher's mound is. We're not going to look that up. I don't know. I think it's 60 feet 6 inches. Okay, we'll have to look it up now. I was trying to avoid this, everybody. Pitching mound. Distance. Well, you know, we could actually figure it out, I'm sure. If you make a square And,
you can. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and then each side
is it perfectly in the center of the square?
That would be a good question. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Maybe later we'll discuss how you would derive the formula to find the exact center of that square.
I bet you there's a baseball opera. Somebody has to.
Well, there is a play called Damn Yankees.
So that's a play.
Yes, but it's a musical. Have you ever heard?
now we brought musicals. That's true.
I'm saying it's
There's
very
plays,
close to an
musicals,
opera.
And operas.
I don't think anybody's going to ever write a baseball opera, but they've written a baseball musical which has some very memorable songs. Have you ever heard the song, But You Gotta Have Heart?
Oh, yeah.
It's from Damn Yankees.
Oh, okay.
All right? So it's touched your life in ways that you didn't even know.
Was it like an effort to get men out to musicals?
I think it was written in a time where men were just going to musicals.
Oh, yeah?
50s and 60s, you just put on your suit and hat, and you take your wife, Lucy Ricardo, to go see a show.
You grab your bongos.
I think that's a good question. When did men start admitting, hey, I don't really like this?
When did it not become a manly thing?
Yep.
Or cease to be a manly thing, if
Good
it ever
question.
was.
Maybe we'll look that up a little bit. Maybe we will. It doesn't sound like a question that's really easy to answer, but maybe there's some article written about it.
Yeah, of like gender preference or something.
Or maybe men always didn't like going to musicals. Maybe Fred Mertz was like, no, that's a terrible way to spend your time.
Who's Fred Mertz?
Lucy and Ricky's neighbor, or landlord.
Oh, yeah.
Fred and Ethel. Okay, so do you remember from last week in the analysis of Sonnet 44, it said it's to be read with Sonnet 45?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I just remembered that right now. You reminded me.
Well, guess what? Something made me remember it. I think it's you reminding me. They happened at the exact same moment, but I'm not sure if one was caused by the other.
Causation.
So last week we did Sonnet 44. This week we get to do Sonnet 45, and we'll see if we could figure out what they're talking about. So last week the sonnet was, I wish that I were thought so I could just zip around the world to wherever you were, but instead I'm in this physical form, and it's making me cry. It's bringing me down.
That's right.
And you and I are so sad that we can't be together. So now we're going to get the other side. Or I don't know if we're going to get the other side. Now we're going to get the sequel in Sonnet 45.
Okay, so that's what I was going to ask is, do you have any relative type of reference for where this sonnet falls behind that one? Like, is it written at the same time, or is it a different perspective? Or all you know is just that they should be read together?
Yeah, it didn't say why it should be read together.
Let's see if we can figure that out then.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sonnet 45. The other two, slight air and purging fire, are both with thee, wherever I abide. The first my thought, the other my desire. These present absent with swift motion slide. For when these quicker elements are gone, in tender embassy of love to thee, my life, being made of four, with two alone, sinks down to death, oppressed with melancholy. Until life's composition be recured by those swift messengers returned from thee, who even but now come back again, assured of thy faith, of thy fair health, recounting it to me. This told, I joy, but then no longer glad. I send them back again, and straight grow sad. Ooh, looks like Shakespeare invented the term straight up.
I straight up
grow sad.
I think so now this is kind of turning into X-Men. So last week his mutant ability, he was kind of like Professor X because it was some like psychic ability. Or no, he's not like Professor X. I'm about to reveal that I don't know that much about X-Men. Who's the guy that can disappear and then reappear wherever he wants on the screen? Nightcrawler?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you see X-Men First Class?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I got it. I need to, though.
There's some character like Azazel. Have you ever heard of him?
No, I'm not like I never read the comic books.
Yeah.
The only exposure I have to it, I watched the cartoon series really a lot when I was a kid.
Okay, and I think there was a lot of canon in that show. But it's just in this movie, there was some character Azazel. I don't know. Maybe we'll look it up. Who knows? Yeah, last week he just wanted the ability to be thought and travel. It seems that this week he has... Maybe he could shoot fireballs from his hand. Purging fire. I think it's just some more sci-fi. I wish I could rise above being mortal.
Man, that'd be cool if all the science from here on out they just get more abstract and like
more superpowers.
This is the source material for X-Men.
But in the end, it seems like the only important thing to him is the other person's health or some, I couldn't quite follow it, but it has something to do with learning how the other person is doing.
Okay.
So from the top.
Let's do this.
The other two, so I'm guessing in Sonnet 44, at the end of it, it said something about earth and water.
Oh, that's right.
So there's 4 elements: earth, water, air, and fire.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
Okay, so the other two, so now we're going to talk about the other 2 elements, slight air and purging fire, are both with thee, wherever I abide. With thee, they're with you, wherever I am. So where I am, I have earth and water. You have air and fire. In some sort of metaphoric way.
Wherever I abide, is he referring to the whole thing of like whether I'm in earth or whether I'm in like, thought or able to travel long distances?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. It could be talking, yes. Wherever I am.
Yeah, last week he was talking about basically transporting, being able to transport.
Quantum Leap. Which, by the way, I do have to correct something that we were talking about last week in Quantum Leap. I was saying I was saying things like he could leap back to Shakespeare's time. There is a problem with that. He could only leap in his lifetime.
Oh, okay.
So from the time that he was born to the present, to his present. Now, there is a catch. I think there was an episode where he went back to the Civil War or something like that. And the catch was he leapt into a relative's body. Because their DNA is so similar, that was okay. So unless we use that trick over and over again, nobody's leaping back to Shakespeare's time. Anyway, last week was Quantum Leap. But this week is okay. Well, let's see. The next line is the first my thought,
the other my desire. So air is his thought, fire is his desire.
Yes.
I'm assuming that.
These present...
They seem to go well together.
Yeah. These present... These present, absent with swift motion slide.
Absent with swift motion slide.
Whoa, this is twisty. I think it might be they're not with me. They're absent.
Yeah, I have present hyphen absent.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Is that... does that make it one word, like present absent, or is it these present, absent with swift motion slide? Any idea?
Not really. I think, like, if these are here, if these are present, then then swift motion slide is absent. I don't know. This is I like it. I like the way the sentence sounds, but I can't really figure out what it means.
Let's just assume real quick that it's one word, present absent. So it's like not here and here.
Not here, not now.
But it is here. So these present absent with swift motion slide. I wonder if it means something like when one is here, the other one's not, and when the other one's here, the other one is.
Sure.
Like when I'm on fire, there's no air to breathe, and when I breathe, there's no fire to burn me.
Or these two elements combined versus air and water.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
maybe it's a tag team, or just all 4 of them are in the ring, but there's 2 teams. Earth and water are fighting air and fire.
Got it. So maybe the next few lines will shine some light on this.
For when these quicker elements are gone, in tender embassy of love to thee, my life, being made of 4, with 2 alone, sinks down to death, oppressed with melancholy. So maybe when I send you my air and fire, I am made of 4 elements, but I send 2 of them to you, and the other 2 sink me down into this deep sadness. Because you're far away, I have to send my love far away, so now it's not close to me anymore. Until life's composition be recured by those swift messengers returned from thee, until you return the love that I'm sending to you,
Okay.
who even but now come back again assured of fair health, recounting it to me. So they come back and they tell me that you're doing well, so maybe you do send me some good message, recounting it to me. This told, I joy. So at first I'm really happy, but then no longer glad. I send them back again, and straight grow sad. As soon as you send me some love, I send you even more, and that somehow is sinking me deep into this melancholy.
Yeah, I see that too, but I feel like we're missing the keystone somewhere that brings it all together for me.
Okay.
But I totally see exactly what you're saying. Basically, let me try to examine what I think I'm missing here.
Okay.
There's 4 elements. There's earth, wind, air, and fire. Wind and air, aren't they the same thing?
No.
Maybe it was earth, water,
yes.
air, and fire.
Earth,
I have a
wind, and
feeling
fire.
that those elements represent something, but I think that's what we're missing. He mentioned earth and water last week when he was talking about how he's made of these things. He's made of earth and water, which is why he's not able to just transport to his lover's location or to the fair youth's location, which really kind of peeves him off. But this week he's talking about air and fire. So what are air and fire? He says air is thought and fire is desire, right?
Yep.
So these present absent with swift motion slide. So they're quick.
Yeah, they go from present to absent in a quick motion.
Okay.
They leave me right away. I send them to you. What's the Beatles song? Like, from me to you?
All my lovin'.
Yeah, all my lovin' I will send to you.
Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah, okay. All right, I'm starting to see.
Okay.
So they go quickly. They come and go quickly.
Yes.
For when these quicker elements are gone, in tender embassy of love to thee, my life, being made of 4, with 2 alone sinks down to death, oppressed with melancholy. So he's supposed to have all 4 of these elements. He's supposed to have air, fire, earth, and water. But when he sends thought and desire, when he doesn't have his thought and desire, they're with... Basically, when he has 2, just earth, referring to earth and water, right? He's sad.
Yes.
Until she sends the fair youth sends the air and fire, thought and desire, back to him, then he's happy. Until he sends it back, then he's really sad.
Yes, and I think it might be he's actually talking about messages at this point. I write you this sonnet, and you write me back a thank you card or something, and I pour all my heart into a sonnet again, and I'm sending it to you, but it's taking the life out of me.
Yeah.
But there's another thing that this sonnet is that we touched on just a moment ago, but I'm realizing now how much it is. These sonnets are about the Beatles. Ringo and George are earth and water.
Uh-huh.
They're going to do like the rough forging of the land, the physical stuff, the drum beat, the lead guitar. And
did Ringo write the songs too?
No, he wrote one popular song, Octopus's Garden. Anyway, John and Paul are the thought and desire, because John was the smartest, Paul was the sexiest, And you needed all four of these elements together, because if you only had just two of them, your life would be a disaster.
That's a great analogy. When Ringo and who was Ringo paired with?
I was pairing him with George.
So when Ringo and George are off tripping on acid, Paul and who's the other?
John.
Yeah, Paul and John are sitting there sad because they don't have their earth elements.
I think other people might pair them this way. Ringo and Paul, because they have the more positive thoughts and positive messages. Like, everything was silly and fun with Ringo, and everything was sweet and romantic with Paul.
They had the more bohemian theme going on.
The peace, love, and fun.
Yeah.
John and George had darker messages. George, I wouldn't say dark because his is extremely peaceful as well, but he writes a song like Tax Man, wagging his finger at the tax man. And then, John definitely had a darker sensibility. So if you have too much John and George, that could pull you down and make you melancholy.
I see.
So you need the balance of Ringo and Paul and all four of them together.
Hey, I think that brings it all home for me, actually. Because I think you're right. If you associate the air and fire with like positive love, sensuality kind of a feeling, when he's without those feelings, he's just earth and water. Really, he needs to be all four of these elements to be perfectly balanced and happy, right?
Yeah, that's how it all has to blend together. Last one I'll try is I will combine Billy Preston with producer George Martin, and they will be air and fire. If you would like to, the listeners, if you would like to combine your own Beatle group or anything, you could do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you could do Sex and the City, anything that comes in four. If you would like to draw a diagram showing how they connect to Sonnet 44 and 45, then you could become friends with us on Instagram. We're M&S Poem. If we ignore you there, then tweet us something at M&S Poem. And if we ignore you there, just send us an email at mnspoem@gmail.com and show us how Michelangelo and Donatello represent air and fire.
That's exactly who I thought.
Yep.
I was thinking.
Yeah, Leonardo and Raphael. They're earth and water.
Yeah, Leonardo is like logic and sense. Raphael is kind of like he's got a bit of anger in him, but he's more about passion and leaping without looking. Whereas Michelangelo's really he's fair, he's lighthearted, and Donatello, while he's the smart guy, I think he also kind of gets along with Michelangelo.
Yeah, he's like a Simpsons writer.
Yeah.
But maybe the listener, maybe on your diagram, you're going to want air and fire to be represented by April and Casey Jones.
Ooh. Yeah, there's some passion there.
All right, so when we broke it down into Beatles, that made you feel like you got Sonnet 45?
Yes, it really did. It helped a lot.
Okay, so we're going to...
I think.
We'll see. So we're going to look up what the internet says and see if they too combine it to John, Paul, George, and Ringo. We'll find out on the other side of the break. You're listening to Mike and Scott read a poem.
So he is like Professor Xavier.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta reclaim that one.
All right, we're back on Mike and Scott read a poem, where, as Mike just explained to me, I was right about Professor Xavier. You call him Professor Xavier, right?
Yeah.
Professor... Did I call him Dr. X earlier?
Oh, God, I hope not.
No, I think I did. And I was doing this last week, and my sister corrected me. That's stupid. It shows you how loosely I watch these things. I'm not even remembering how to say their names. I'm sorry.
I'm embarrassed that I didn't catch it.
Yeah, I hope I didn't say that many times. Maybe I'll record myself saying Professor X and just slip it in.
Yeah. Oh man, I hope that re-record yourself saying Professor X, but have it be in like
very
like
clearly
in that
not
episode.
fitting.
Yeah, in that episode of The Simpsons when he was edited.
Professor X.
When Homer was edited in the interview, being like, "I had to get some of that sweet can."
Oh yes. Yeah.
And he was saying candy.
Right. Yeah, you went way back on that one when he had the gummy Venus de Milo.
Yeah, gummy Venus.
I thought you were going to go to the episode where it was right after the Super Bowl that they had this episode play, or near the, I don't know, just Super Bowl weekend or something like that. So the episode was about Homer going to the Super Bowl. And Simpsons episodes, especially back then, took months to make. So, of course, you had no idea who was going to be in the Super Bowl. So, whenever they said the names of the teams in the Super Bowl, they would take a glass and put it right over their lips so you couldn't see their lips moving. And then they would just say, the Denver Broncos, or whoever was in the Super Bowl.
And it wasn't even like Homer's voice or anything.
Well, it was.
Or maybe it was, but just not in the same, like...
It didn't flow.
Yeah.
In the sentence.
Yeah, you got to do that. So when people will hear that earlier in the episode and be like,
"What was that?
That sounded weird."
What do you
and
say?
Now
Professor
they'll know
X like that. All right, so maybe I'll do that.
When they get to this point, they'll know that you said Dr. X.
Of course, now I can do that, even if I did say Professor X.
Ooh, we're getting meta.
Mm-hmm. All right. So besides me being right about Professor X, what else about the song? You feel like we did a really good job?
Yeah, I think we really did a good job, because the main idea is totally the same as what we were thinking. It's that and especially Scott, you brought up the idea that he's sending his love kind of in a message form, whether it be through a sonnet or through a letter, or as we just kind of figured out through Professor X,
through that machine that he gets hooked up to.
Yeah. Oh, he doesn't need the machine. The machine makes him. Yeah, it just amplifies his power.
Right, but you're far away. Remember that.
You're right. Okay. Yeah, maybe he does. I think he uses that to talk to the Phoenix.
Really,
mostly, right?
Was that from X3?
I just saw it in the cartoon way back.
Okay.
See, all these memories are coming back from 10 plus years ago.
Okay, so we're uncovering Mike's early childhood memories on Mike and Scott Read a Poem. But I would say our grade this week should be, is this a #1 hit Beatlemania single?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, this is a #1 hit, especially because it was so quick. And I think you've told me this trivia before, but if you play all of the Beatles songs back to back, it's 2 hours of music or something like that.
That's a good question. Well, they had. Are you talking about their #1 hits, or just
like everything?
Oh, just how many songs they had?
Yeah, like if you play them, because all of them are like 2-minute, 3-minute songs.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. No, it still has to be more than 2 hours. It would be. Okay, so you're just saying their album releases, but you have to put in things like "Hey Jude," that wasn't on an album. But you can include things like the anthology, because that's just other... This is a great question, but I'm going to say it has to be more like 5 or 6 hours.
Even still, I mean, that's pretty amazing,
right.
You know?
The 6 hours that changed the world type of thing.
Yeah. So, because we kind of figured this sonnet out so quickly, I mean, this deserves to be a #1 hit, man.
Okay.
The only thing that I want to bring up from Shakespeare's-sonnets.com, the idea that the 4 elements are seen as the only things that make up everything in the world. Now we know that there's over 100 elements. They thought there was 4, and it was earth, fire, water, and air. I did that in the worst, the worst order. So being without half of your elements is not a good thing. It's really bad. So you wanna always have all 4 elements at all times. That's why he's saying, when my thoughts and my desires are sent to you, to the fair youth, it really sucks. Like, life is just melancholy. But as soon as you send them back, all is right with the world, and I'm happy for a second. Yeah, and then I send it right back to you, and I'm just so sad again.
And then I would write back saying, maybe you want to change your strategy a little bit then and hold on to it for a little while longer before you send it back to me.
Yeah. And
then Shakespeare would respond, why are you always trying to fix me?
They just get in a huge argument.
And it just goes back and forth.
It takes months to resolve because they sent letters by carrier pigeon in those days.
But we're not going to read the letters back from the fair youth. We're only going to see Shakespeare's sonnets responses.
Whenever he just happens to publish a response. It's like the latest soap opera.
Ooh, what happened to Shakespeare and the fair youth? Just like the you always wanted the tabloids, and one sonnet you finally got it. All right, so here's our trivia questions. When did men stop going to musicals? Hans Christian Andersen, he missed an opera or something. We got too many this week. Anyway, Pitching Mound Distance, and how many hours combined is all of the Beatles' music?
Yeah.
I'm going to bump up to maybe even like 11 hours.
Really? Because 11 hours seems like normal or a lot. I remember when you told me this fact, I was really surprised. So I'm going to stick down to 4.
Oh, it has to be more than 4.
It's got to be a surprising number.
It's going to be 8.
Really?
Mm-hmm. 8 hours, 37 minutes, 24 seconds. Let me write that down. 8 hours. How many minutes did I say? Doesn't really
34?
matter. I think it was 24. Well,
34:27. 8:34:27.
27 seconds. Oh. Okay. So now we definitely are going to look it up. Do you want to guess an exact number?
Yeah, I'll say 4 hours, 45 minutes, 59 seconds.
Woohoo.
Just shy.
Of 4 hours, 46 minutes.
Yeah, just shy.
Just didn't
missed
get there.
That benchmark.
Sorry, guys. And that's including Free as a Bird and Real Love. All right. So those of you that knew that, congratulations. We're going to look up all these trivia questions on the other side of the break. This is still Mike and Scott Read a Poem.
It's not a very controlled study, but it's what we got.
Yeah, so Mike thought, we're back on Mike and Scott Read a Poem. Mike thought that if he looked at a chart of attendance of male versus female to going to operas from Australia from the years 2002 to 2006, maybe we'd be able to extrapolate what the United States was from the 1950s to the present.
You're making a big... Okay, I'm a business analyst, and my coworkers listen to this. So making a claim that I made such a strong
Mike said to me
statement
that these numbers are going to reveal everything to us. This is how I do my job, Scott. This is how good I am at my job. This is what he said to me. He said, this study that I'm doing right now will reveal to you how good I am at my job. I told him he was taking it too far, but he insisted that this Australian study... so we don't have any answer as far as if going to the theater to see musicals and operas was more popular in the 50s. We couldn't find those numbers. We didn't really look for those numbers.
But what we do know, what we could glean from this information, is that we were right in assuming that more women go to musicals and operas than men.
In Australia.
But by a factor of about 7.
Between the years of 2002 to 2006.
Yep.
I heard a joke the other day that it's an old joke, but I don't think it's an old joke for everybody. And it's that an astronomer, a physicist, and a mathematician were in a train, and they were driving past a field in Scotland. And they looked out the window, and they saw a black sheep. The astronomer said, "Hey, look at that. All the sheep in Scotland are black." The physicist says, no, some sheep in Scotland are black. The mathematician says, no, there is at least one field in Scotland that has at least one sheep that is black on at least one side.
All right, I like it.
It becomes funny. You were scared. You were scared that this was going nowhere. I could see you were losing your patience.
I thought the punchline was just that the mathematician got a little bit more specific. But
he
when
got
you brought in
way
the one side,
specific. Yeah, it's that last line that's the kicker.
That's a pretty good joke.
Yeah. It's funny because the physicist is a little bit more specific, and then the mathematician goes all the way there.
And I kind of thought with the physicist you were gonna bring in like unified field theory or something.
Yes, there is one plane of existence, something weird like that. No, it's just that they don't make such claims that astronomers make, and then mathematicians will not say anything unless they're absolutely sure that it's true. Okay, so that's what that's what you're saying. That's the argument about using the Australian numbers to predict numbers in America, especially from the 50s to present. It's just, obviously, we don't have that kind of information.
Yeah, but we do have one study, at least, that shows some information, and that's all we have to go on.
So the pitching mound distance.
It tells us nothing.
Pitching mound distance is...
Pitching mound distance. You hit it right on the head. It's 60 feet and 6 inches, and that's from...
In Australia.
Between 2002 and 2006.
Yeah, we don't know what they're pitching on now.
That's from the very front of the mound, from the pitcher's perspective.
Oh, it's not from the rubber?
Well, from the front of the rubber. Sorry, that's what I meant.
Okay.
From the pitcher's perspective to the back of home plate.
Back of home plate. That's important. I would have gotten that wrong, I think.
Yeah, so now you know. 6 feet, 6 inches.
Yeah, so people would have gone to play on my field that I built for them, and they would say, "Whoa, these pitches are coming in faster."
Wait, maybe front of rubber means like the side that's closer to outfield.
Slower. The front of rubber. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. The front from whose perspective?
That's right.
I would think it's looking into the plate.
I think it's from the umpire's perspective now.
Think so?
Yeah, back of home plate. That's kind of universal.
Is there a picture of it?
Back of home plate is. No, there's no picture. Oh, well, maybe there is. Let me just find. Let me see. We gotta. Oh, here's okay. It's like a schematic. I gotta zoom in.
If it was from the front of the plate, the batter would get just a little extra time to decide if they want to swing or not.
Oh man, this schematic I think is for Little League.
Oh man,
43 inches. But the measurement is from the rear of home plate to the outfield side of the rubber.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
Let's just assume that.
That's actually the better place to measure it from, because maybe the rubbers are shaped a little bit differently from
the rubber's supposed to be 6 inches from what I read.
Okay. So the rubber is the same. Maybe the dirt part's allowed to be different. Maybe they all have to be exactly the same. Who knows? But I have said that about baseball. It's one of the only sports, except for something like golf, where it varies from place to place when you play it. It's not like in hockey when they play in Anaheim, the goals are this far apart, and then when you play in LA, it's like, man, the goals are so much farther apart. You have to skate forever to get to the other side of the ice.
Oh, wait. Oh, man, this is annoying. Okay, the 43 is softball. Damn it, I thought I had something.
No, I think we're fine. I think we could. I think we could put the pitching mound to rest.
All right.
It's like one of those things. The people that know it already know it. Although that is the thing about rules, is you think you know it until somebody challenges you on something. I guess I would have been able to say any time, pitching mound 60 feet 6 inches. Yes, but from what point to what point? You need to know. Just like the mathematician. Okay, so that's pitching mound distance. Hans Christian Andersen, speaking of not knowing, I didn't know. I saw this movie when I was a little kid. It's not a biographical interpretation of his life. It's a fairy tale about the man who wrote these stories. It really doesn't take his real life into account that much. So the fact that he was locked in the dressing room or something during the premiere of Little Mermaid, by the way, that was the ballet, Little Mermaid, just because
Little
it happened in
Mermaid
that
was a
movie.
ballet?
Yeah.
Is it the same storyline as the movie?
Yep.
Oh man, I'm so interested.
Things are different. There's no part of your world song.
Maybe that's why Ursula looks like an opera singer.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, but so there's no connection. So that, once again, I can't prove that it didn't happen, but just because it's in the movie doesn't mean that it happened in real life. All right, what else did we have to look up? Oh, go ahead.
The Beatles' discography.
Yes.
We're looking at the length of music when you play one song back to back. So first of all, the discography is actually a bit complicated because there's different versions of albums in different areas, and when you count EPs plus singles plus studio albums, it can get a little bit complicated.
What a mess.
But the core Beatles discography recorded during the 60s is 217 songs and approximately 10 hours of music.
10 hours.
So you were close. You were much closer than I. I was way off. I had no reference.
I was approaching 10. I went from
8.
I went from 6 to 11 to 8. It was approaching 10 if I had kept guessing.
So even still, I mean, if you think of it like the Beatles produced 10 hours of produced music that basically changed music for the whole entire world forever almost.
Yeah. In just 10 hours.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm. So, speaking of people that haven't changed the world, really, you and I have done another podcast, so that's good for us.
Woohoo!
And this podcast, it had the right blend of everything that we need for this podcast. It had you. It had me.
2.
It had Shakespeare.
3.
And it had the audience.
4.
And I feel like when... No. Not the audience. It had trivia questions. All right? So we get this great feeling when we have all 4 of these things together. We're analyzing Shakespeare. We're coming up with trivia questions. And then immediately, what do? We send it to the audience.
Ah, that's where the audience comes in.
And I gotta say, I get kind of down because then I don't have it anymore. But, then the audience listens to it, hits us up at Gmail, at mnspoem@gmail.com. Or does things on Twitter or something. And all of a sudden we get filled with these great thoughts again. And we get together again, you and me. And then there's Shakespeare. And then there's trivia questions. But what do?
What do we do?
We send it back to them immediately. We hold on to it for an hour. And then we send it back. Yeah. So, I'm sorry, man, but these are those low feelings that we're going to be feeling for the rest of the week.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry to bring you down like this, but hey.
Can't wait till the next podcast.
Until then, man, life is dreary. Signing out. I'm Mike and Scott. Read a poem.
This week's episode is brought to us by the American Gladiator, Skye. I remember Skye from the later episodes, I guess, but she's got like a kind of like a housewife haircut. I don't know what you'd call it. It's like a short little bob.
She would always offer a place to sit for the contestants and would make them feel comfortable and just make good conversation with them, give them tea.
She made a great cup of coffee.
Yeah, and she was just a great listener.
She had a long and successful career. It looks like she was in the Gladiators from 1992 to 96, which is really long, actually.
A viewership in Australia spiked between the years of 92 and 96. And that can tell us a lot.